We got EVO, Comic-Con, and Overwatches. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, July 26th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Like I said, big thing, both celebration and tournament. EVO 2024 is happening. I believe it is happening this weekend, or it happened last weekend. I think it was last weekend, actually. But there was a bunch of announcements for fighting games for all people who enjoy both the tournament side of it as well as just getting more content for their fighting games. What the two kind of big things that caught my eye coming out of EVO, who, I'm not that big of a fighting game fan, although I do love the Mortal Kombat for the story, which is a little weird. But big thing is Terry is finally coming to Street Fighter 6. It's been a while. One of the characters that people know, one of the fan favorites that people know and love. Terry is coming to Street Fighter 6, so that's the next one coming out for them. And then Multiverses is adding a couple more WB IPs in Samurai Jack, which I would actually be really excited to play as. And Beetlejuice has been summoned to Multiverses. So looking forward to seeing those two characters in Multiverses. If there's any other news that you feel like I forgot, feel free to tell me what your favorite thing coming out of EVO was down below in the comments. One of the biggest changes that happened when Overwatch switched from Overwatch 1 to 2 was to reduce the team size down to 5 versus 5 player games. This was to, I believe, and I'm not an Overwatch expert, to limit like a 2-tank meta. 2 tanks are really hard to chew through for the rest of the team, and so they wanted to limit it down so that they could, so the games were shorter and less kind of like Battle of the Bulge. But they are actually talking about going back up to the 6v6. They're doing, I assume, whatever they can to try and keep Overwatch relevant and go back to a time when people loved Overwatch and didn't hate it for the gameplay and the quitters and all that kind of stuff, which will all still kind of be there. But hopefully 6v6 does help them maintain relevance or at least earn some of it back. So I never played it as a 6v6 game. I didn't play too much Overwatch, and I hopped on Overwatch 2, so I know a little bit about 5v5, but I bet this is good news for some of those people who've been waiting on the sidelines, hoping to return to the game they love. Speaking of Overwatch, Sony is doing their own Overwatch. Concord has been hitting my feed for a few weeks now, and the biggest kind of pieces of news that I saw this week were they're even taking a page out of Overwatch books with character shorts. So they're doing little small vignettes, kind of giving you a glimpse of the world and get you to learn and understand these characters. As well as I saw news that there won't be a battle pass. So you'll buy the game, you'll get all the characters, and you're off to the races. The one thing I have questions about is when they release new characters, are those included in the base game, or am I going to have to pay $5 per character, or is there some way for me to earn them in-game? So, Sony's still trying to paint itself as the good guy, as you buy it once and you get all the characters, but when they eventually add more characters, I am curious how they monetize, if at all, from there. So, looking forward to that. Unions are cropping up all over the games industry, and none more than what's going on at Microsoft this week. So Bethesda, the entire studio across, I believe I saw Austin and the New England area and all that kind of stuff, they're all starting to unionize. So Bethesda is unionized under Microsoft, as well as specifically the World of Warcraft team. So not Blizzard as a whole, but just the team that works on World of Warcraft has unionized. I'm curious why kind of a subdivision would unionize. Maybe the fact that it's a live service and kind of stuck itself out for quite some time has something to do with it, but I am a little curious why World of Warcraft, the team itself, and not Blizzard as a whole, would unionize. But if you have more insight, feel free to correct me down below in the comments. Ubisoft has finally broken their silence and pushed back against all the Assassin's Creed Shadows haters. They said that yes, they put out a big statement this week talking about how their game, they feel like they did a lot of research and that they feel like their game is kind of true to the historical relevance of the characters within Assassin's Creed Shadows. But they did want to push back and say, hey, this isn't a historical fiction. This isn't factually based. They are taking some creative liberties, which I think you should expect from, the assassins running around with this apple skull mind slaving thing. Anyway, the Assassin's Creed games are really good at replicating kind of what we would think of as kind of these ancient societies, but they're not in fact like factual renditions of what actually happened back in the time. So I'm looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I know there's a lot of hate and pushback, and finally Ubisoft is defending themselves, so good on them. Speaking of defending themselves, the actors are going on strike again. I know that hopefully that doesn't trigger anybody listening, but the actors, SAG-AFTRA, are going on strike, and they're pushing back against game publishers and their use of AI. So, 160,000 people are now, not working for the game's publishers because, they're concerned about AI. I know that games didn't get really sucked up into any of the strikes that were happening last year with the writer's strike and the actor's strike happening there. So games was kind of off on its own, doing its own thing, and still, fully in production. But now that, actors are sitting it out again, I'm curious, what games that this is going to affect going forward, and in an already pretty light year for the games industry. One of the biggest DLCs or mods, I should say, for Fallout 4 has been coming for quite some time. I know that they've been stop and go for a little bit there, but the mod, probably the biggest mod from what I was reading from the articles, probably the biggest mod for Fallout 4 is being launched this week as with partnership from GOG. Fallout London. I've talked about it a couple times on this show, but I from what I saw, there's a full trailer kind of talking about all the different factions that you'll have to work with within Fallout London, and it's just kind of interesting to see kind of, again, not an official take, but a modders, big modders take on what it would look like in, the nuclear wasteland that is London or the English countryside. So yeah, I'm very curious. I might even download Fallout 4 to check out what this mod is all about. The trailer does a good job of like setting up the world and each of the different factions. The one thing that I did notice in like the download guide is that you will need like all the DLCs, which just kind of tells me that they used like all the assets that are in the game to build this DLC or this mod. So I'd have to double check if I have all of my Fallout 4 DLC before downloading it again. But I'm very excited to see kind of some, a non-official take on what could happen within the Fallout universe, but across the pond in London. Space Marine 2 is one of the games I'm most excited about coming this year, and this week I saw a short trailer kind of showcasing kind of some of their swarm mechanics. And this time we'll be fighting Tyranids rather than orcs. So they're going to be swarming around, and you're going to be seeing all sorts of different, small insect-like bugs running around, and how you're going to have to take them out in swarms. Everyone's probably going to love using a flamer to take out as many bugs as they can, but it even showed like two swarms kind of merging together as they're off in the distance, and it was kind of a really elegant way of like how, and I bet there's a lot of smart coding that goes into like how swarms kind of merge together and then become a bigger enemy for you to fight. So it was a really cool showcase and something I'm looking forward to in Space Marine 2 coming later this year. A game that is also caught my eye that isn't already established. Angst Tale of Survival asks the question, what would you do to survive? Which any good survival horror game is always asking us. But the twist on this was, you're in the frozen north trying to survive and build up your small little cabin. But also, would you be willing to parlay with a eldritch god, which seems like, which is what I got from the trailer, is like you're going to have to be making sacrifices, even like offered up like with a stump hand as if he'd given away his hand. So I am kind of curious and interested in what we're going to have to do in Angst: A Tale of Survival. Last but not least, I never miss a chance to talk about BioShock, and it sounds like the movie that is coming to Netflix, I believe, has had a budgetary scale down. So they are going to be focused more on like a human story, which I think the original Bioshock is more about. It's a smaller game, smaller scope. You're only in a limited area, and there's only so many characters that you can have. So I could, I still hope to see like Big Daddies and the robots and all that kind of stuff coming out. But as far as like reimagine or fully realizing Columbia, which would be a big grandiose thing, I can imagine it being more one character story through this world, which is what I love about Bioshock. In fact, the character isn't even I think has a name, but like it's very helmet on, Master Chief. You don't really you can really put yourself into the character. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Bioshock movie that Netflix is making, and I'm hopefully scaling it down will help them tell a tighter story, which is what we kind of need from this, rather than trying to do this grandiose, over the top, fully CGI realized world. So hopefully they can tell a more concise and smaller story. But that's it for this week. I fooled you at the beginning. I'm not going to actually talk about Comic-Con. Not a lot of games kind of coming out of Comic-Con. More kind of bigger, grander, nerdier IPs coming out of that. But let me know if you feel like any big news is coming out of Comic-Con down below in the comments. But as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. And any form of engagement is great. So love to see it. But as always, I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend, and I hope you have a super day. Bye!